If you are acting out of fear, that emotion is going to rise up in you so much that you're not even going to want to go and set goals and really have a clear vision for your company. So that is the sinister nature. It will stop you dead in your tracks from even doing some of the proactive things instead of the reactive things, like developing a business plan, like thinking about how do I go about systemizing. Those sorts of things come out of a situation of creativity because you are optimistic about what's going to happen. If you're acting out of a position of fear, all of that just gets cut off. And therefore, the momentum in your business, it doesn't even get out the blocks. That is the sinister nature of operating out of fear. How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business. Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max. I'm your host. I'm the CEO at Smith & Sons Canada, and I am the ambitious founder of EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by. Welcome to you if you are a first-time listener and just checking us out. I appreciate you doing that. If you're a long-time listener and you know how much I love you guys as well, I appreciate you hanging in there and trust that you're getting some value. Like and subscribe. One of these drops every week. Get across to Business for Builders VIP on Facebook. Answer the 3 questions and then I will let you in. And that's a great community there. Ask some questions, get some answers, some collaboration around what's going on in the industry. If you want to get access to people all over the world, that's a good place to start. And just figuring out what's happening, in the industry, and maybe get some insights from other operators in and around the game that we play as well. Don't forget, if you want to chat with me about what's going on in your business, have a quick 30-minute strategy session with me, no strings attached. Jump on EliteBusinessAdvisory.com, grab the book a consultation button, and find out a time that suits you. Now, if you can't find a time because it's a little bit booked, then feel free to grab an email and just ask me or just let me know what times might work for you, and I'll see if I can move some things around. My email's max@EliteBusinessAdvisory.com. And look, there's a number on that website as well, top left-hand corner. That is my WhatsApp number. So if you want to reach out there, don't abuse that, but would love to maybe just have a quick phone conversation with you. Maybe that's a good option rather than email and rather than booking a consultation. Just make sure if you're in a different time zone that you shoot me a message and I'll see if I can fit you in for a quick impromptu 5-minute chat. How's that sound? That's some good value. Right. November's been all about auditing, assessment, figuring out what we did well, what we didn't do well, looking forward to 2025 and wanting to be an agent of change within our business. Now, I've reflected on what we call our 5 steps to freedom. That is 1 being creation, 2nd being chaos, which is where most builders and general contractors find themselves in the control phase or the control step, into the prosperity step, and then into the freedom step. I've focused on 3 of those, and I've run some acronyms for each of those: chaos, control. I was started out in disorder. Can't remember now. Yeah, disorder, order, and then prosperity. Okay, and I really wanted to wrap up. I was going to start the month by chatting about this subject here, but I thought to myself, you know what? There's a lot of reasons why we don't do things in the business world. And you could get some fairly superficial reasons, but what I find, and what I experience too, there's things that, even for me in this day and age, when I've got to pick up the phone and maybe ring a new inquiry for the first time, there is that little bit of feeling of fear. Yes, that's what I said. Even for me, I'm like, I'm a little bit nervous about making the phone call. Now, feeling the fear and doing it anyway, that's where I go to straight away, because it's no big deal. They're just another human that puts their trousers on one leg at a time, just like I do. So I quickly overcome that fear. But I know that fear is something that can trap human beings and really immobilize them. So, really what I'm going to quickly talk about in the next 20 or 30 minutes is overcoming fear, as a contractor or in contracting or in the construction industry. Strategies for, becoming courageous and resilient and a confident leader, really that is what we have to develop as a natural go-to, or very much inside of our muscle memory. Like I said, I feel that little bit of fear about calling a stranger, but immediately I'm like, no, this is part of the deal. I've got a systemized approach to how I go about this. Go and execute. Bang. So for me, it's not that I don't, who said, I think that was one of the presidents, courage is not the absence of fear, but just being able to do the job, despite feeling that feeling. And so, I think the encouraging thing, what I'm trying to do this today, wherever you are, is that you need to understand that someone like me who is, who oversees or has a controlling interest in 3 companies, that does a podcast, that is out there sort of making it happen, I still feel fear. Like I feel it for a moment, but I just don't let it control me. And so, I'm just going to quickly chat about, 2 things: the sinister nature of operating out of fear and the courage to move from operating out of fearfulness to fearlessness. So, I think, just to give you that quick context, it's like we don't do things because we're fearful. Now, I could have gone an acronym, or I could have, fear, false evidence appearing real, FEAR, false evidence appearing real. So what we find ourselves doing is basing decisions on things, on feelings that appear that they will be real, but they're not really. And so, I think what we've got to do is try and develop the courage to be able to move from that place where you're full of fear to that place where you're fearless. Okay. And I think fearlessness is a little bit of a stretch, since I just said that, courage is to be able to do something, even whilst having that feeling of fear. And so, we do, I think for me, I feel the fear and then I move into a very strong place of fearlessness, because I've put it in context. I've put it in order. I've gotten rid of the controlling influence that fear has on my life and my activity and my thought process, okay? So let's quickly chat about the sinister nature of operating out of fear. Number 1, paralyzed decision-making. Self-explanatory. Fear often leads to indecision, causing missed opportunities and stagnation. A leader becomes hesitant and unsure, which can cripple the company's growth. If you want to reduce your level of what's the word? A high level of result in your business, then allow fear to paralyze your decision making. I've talked with people where it's like, mate, you've been talking with me about this for so long. Can we just make a decision and get on with it? It's like, I shit you not. Come on. And that is operating. That is where, when I know somebody is being made subject or is in a fearful part of their existence, it's where they just want to talk about it. They don't actually want to run to solutions around it. Now, I'm all about just nailing it down and go, okay, what are we dealing with? Okay, we need clarity. We need context. I get it. Because without clarity and context, I've got no chance of making a decision. However, I don't want to stay there, and I don't want to spend a shit ton of time there either. I never get paralyzed in the decision-making process. I would rather make a decision that ends in micro-failure. I'm thinking, if you're thinking about proposing to your spouse or spouse or your better half, don't rush into that as much. But sometimes you've just got to throw caution to the wind, and you've got to have a bit of a crack at it. Give it a red-hot go, we'd say in Australia. And so, I think that, because what happens is, if there is a micro-failure, what we have the ability or the resource then to do is to fail forward. Okay, and that's empowering. You go, okay, cock that one up. However, there is some positive. This is what I take away. This is how I'm going to make it better. Okay, right. Some other sinister, parts of operating out of fear: micromanagement. Okay, fearful leaders feel the need to control every detail, stifling team creativity and demoralizing your team. This behavior decreases team morale and productivity. Look, micromanagement, as much as it comes out of operating from a position of fearfulness, so being full of fear, it also comes down to, I think, sometimes the operator not thinking about his business from a systemized point of view. I can recruit using a system that will help me discern whether or not this person is a fit or not. And then I have systems of roles and responsibilities and, things that they do in the business that things must be done or tasks must be carried out in accordance with. And I like to give people autonomy because they tell me they like it. Unfortunately for them, if they go and jump a fence instead of going through a gate, I'm going to bring in the light of accountability and say, you didn't act in accordance with the system. So I think micromanagement can be motivated from a position of insecurity. It can be motivated from a position of fear. And it certainly practically can be motivated because, well, get out of the way, I'll do it myself. And you micromanage and you lean over their shoulder and you make sure that every time they pull the trigger on the nail gun, you're telling them where to put the nail. And it's like, enough, right? You haven't got a system to be able to train your people. And so between those three things, insecurity, fear, and lack of systems, that's what's, that sinister nature of operating out of fear is going to cause micromanagement, and that's going to stifle the growth of your business. Reactive behavior. Operating from fear leads to short-term reactive decisions instead of proactive strategic planning, putting the company in a state of constant crisis management. Now, I just said make decisions quickly. Now, if that decision was made quickly, but it was that was founded on the overarching or the overall goal of the direction of the business, then quick decisions are a good thing. But if you don't have the ability to forecast or have the vision of or be understanding where the data is taking you or the performance of the business right now, then you're going to be very reactive because you've not set a goal. You've not set a trajectory. Like you have no understanding of where it is that you want to end up. So you just kind of go, well, I think they're doing it wrong and I think you should do it this way. We've not used the end destination as an anchor that pulls us in the direction where we should go. Okay, so that's reactive behavior. And that will put you in a position of crisis management all the time. Now, in some cases, we all react incorrectly, unprofessionally, inappropriately, what have you. We need to just step back and go, hang on a minute. I lack some vision. I made that decision. How can I just back up from that and then point the business back in the way that should go, learn from that negative experience and use it as a stepping stone to take you on your way in the right direction. Okay, so it's not about being judged or sitting here going, well, I suck, I'm going to eat worms and nothing's going to work out for me. I think we've got to make sure that in the event, I'm just highlighting it, bringing some awareness. If you are reactive, that habit needs to change. And it will be easier to change if you have a very strategic outlook, if you have got a good business plan, if you have got good goals set 1, 3, 5, 10 years, and you've got systemization to support all of that growth, okay? So that's where reactive behavior, where you can capitalize on something that's negative, that's really driven out of fear, you can back up and work yourself more into a secure, solid position from which you can then make better decisions on the fly. Number 4, loss of vision. So here's another, sinister part of operating out of fear. Fear clouds judgment and reduces the ability to focus on long-term goals, causing the company to drift away from its purpose and core values. So I'm asking you, so you don't make reactive decisions, to have vision and goals for over a long period of time. Now, if you are acting out of fear, that emotion is going to rise up in you so much that you're not even going to want to go and set goals and really have a clear vision for your company. So that is the sinister nature. It will stop you dead in your tracks from even doing some of the proactive things instead of the reactive things, like developing a business plan, like thinking about how do I go about systemizing, like what is the kind of culture that I want in my business? What is my preferred client profile? What sort of messaging do I want in my marketing? Like those sorts of things come out of a situation of creativity because you are optimistic about what's going to happen. If you're acting out of a position of fear, all of that just gets cut off. And therefore, the momentum in your business, it doesn't even get out the blocks. That is the sinister nature of operating out of fear. Okay, number 5, the high stress and burnout. Living in a state of fear leads to chronic stress, diminishing a leader's energy, health, and overall effectiveness, which negatively impacts both personal well-being and your company performance. Okay, so I think I talked a couple episodes ago about figuring out the level of stress you can carry, and if it's too much, you've got to get out. Now, I'm not saying that there is a place where there's no stress. I mean, there might be, okay? But for us average folks, we're going to live in a world whereby there's going to be stress somewhere, whether it's personal or business, okay? There's going to be stress. So our ability to respond and to be proactive is going to be what determines whether or not we can continue to exist at that level. The minute what happens is when you get into that position of high stress and burnout, when that means you feel like the load is on you and you can't really respond, and if you revert back to fear, you're going to make some pretty average decisions. And at this point, I would say to you, if you are in a dark place at the moment, I would urge you to reach out. Because nobody wants to lose anybody because business got too challenging, okay? There's loved ones and there's people around you that love you, that want you to succeed, but that love you in spite of your success or not, okay? So it's not the be-all and end-all. And I think potentially if your ego's too high and you don't accept that failure is sometimes part of your business journey, then that could cause you to act, in a certain way as well, and we don't want that. So please reach out and contact someone that you can trust and ask for help. That's what you've got to do. So we want to make sure that is, the ultimate, the sinister nature of fear can be that it's going to confuse you, and it's going to, because of the stress that's on you, it's going to, in your mind, you'll legitimize a certain activity as an outcome and as a remedy for your challenges, and it's going to take you to a pretty bad place if you're not careful. So like I said, at that point, you need to really probably put your hand up. Right, so here's what I want to then bring to the table after all of that, a little bit, negative Nelly, a little bit of Debbie Downer stuff. What I want to do now is talk about the courage to move from operating out of fearfulness or full of fear to a position where you are fearlessness, where there is not necessarily an absence of fear, but the courage to act in spite of, being, having some of that fear in you. I think I heard one business mentor of mine years ago. He said, it's not like, you don't get butterflies. It's just, and you can't get rid of butterflies. You just make those bastards fly in formation. And that's really what it comes down to, just organizing your fear so it no longer controls you. Okay, so what are some steps to encourage you to move or to I guess take away the power of fear in your life? Okay, develop self-awareness. Recognize and acknowledge your fears. Awareness is the first step to overcoming them, and it empowers you to make intentional, confident decisions. Like anything else, I think that this is a technique, okay? Now, I think it's very similar to learning a martial art. When you start off and you've got a white belt or whatever it is that you like to do, it starts out with doing the very basic kata, and it's what you're trying to do is you do it over and over again, and it becomes muscle memory. You don't have to think about it. If I was going to teach you how to play lead guitar, there's things that we do that, there's things I don't think about. I just do the muscle memory, and that's come from hours and hours and hours and hours, hundreds of hours, if not thousands of hours of just playing over and over and over again. And so I think, that self-awareness to be able to recognize and acknowledge where you're fearful, and then working on the discipline of, engaging courage that overshadows the fear. Systems can really help you do that. To bridge the gap between the initial courage, the execution, and overcoming the fear, it can come down to a system. Things like a script, a checklist, some accountability with another human, someone that you can trust. Like, there's got to be measures in there that that, okay, if I do this will give me the power to overcome the fear, and that means I can move into a place of production and efficiency and achievement, and that's where we want to build. That's where we want to go. Number 2, build confidence through preparation. Okay, this is an important one. Invest time in learning and mastering your craft. Knowledge and competence reduces anxiety and increases self-assurance. There's to me, I love that, because that is who I am. I love to be prepared. You know, when I come and shoot a podcast, I like to have notes. You know, I've been known to do it off a couple of dot points on a Post-it note, and then sometimes I can produce actual show notes, you know, that I really want to make sure that I don't miss anything. But there is also a part of me then, I'm very binary. There's a part of me that doesn't mind being a little bit spontaneous, that has a high appetite for risk. Now, I sit here as a 51-year-old, and I'm not saying that you just go and buy that attitude. You don't. And I think it's come from years and years and years, decades of being involved in business, year after year after year, probably more failures than successes, micro failures for the most part, but having the ability nonetheless to evolve and to develop. And so your level of preparation can really help you remove some of that fear, and that's another great way to bridge the gap. Okay, number 3 there, the courage to move from operating out of fear to operating out of fearlessness or becoming fearlessness. Practice emotional regulation. You know, I've talked about this from a personal standpoint. Use techniques like deep breathing, mindfulness, and positive visualization to stay calm under pressure and maintain emotional balance. Now, I take, there's 2 parts to this, and I might have mentioned this recently, is that the word regulation always comes into my head when there's something that catches me off guard. It's like, oh, that dickhead cut me off, right? You know, I've been known to get a little bit of road rage, but it's never worth it. It never ends well, and it's something that I've had to work on for the longest time. And the way I do it, because I don't have a lot of time to take control if something catches me out, because I tend to run to a confrontation or a fight. And so the word regulation comes to mind. Now, that's in a spontaneous or an unexpected event. The other thing that comes to mind is when, you know, I go racing, I tend to pull my visor down while I'm sitting in the outgrid, and I literally close my eyes and I run that track. And I've done that track hundreds of times now, but because you're on the starting grid and you're side by side, you know, I'm going through I'm visualizing the different possibilities, you know, depending on where I'm sitting on the grid, whether I'm pole position or whether I'm, you know, sitting third on the grid, which puts me sort of in the second row off pole, you know, like because what it does, the visualization helps me with that feeling of preparedness. I'm not being caught out, you know. And so what that does is it actually removes the fear. And when the fear is in you, that means your emotions go up, your ability to make decisions goes down. So visualization helps me reduce the emotion. It then converts into control, and I feel a lot more calm. And then I rely on my natural ability to race that kart. And so normally it has a good outcome. A couple of the latest races, I actually didn't do too well. I run out of talent on a couple of occasions. So not a perfect science, but nonetheless, it puts me in a very confident position, when I practice emotional regulation. Right, so we're talking about using courage to move from operating out of fear to operating in a position of fearlessness, or where fear doesn't have control. Number 4 here is embrace failure as growth. You've heard me talk about this lots. You've got to shift your mindset to view setbacks as learning opportunities. Each failure is a chance to refine your approach and build resilience. So last episode, we talked about resilience. And so in failing, it actually, it creates almost like a scar or a callus, and so is that the right word, where you have calluses on your fingers, on your hands? Right. It creates a very, your skin gets a little bit thicker over time. And I think that is probably, where I'm at, and I've still got a long way to go and a lot to grow and a lot to get to know, but I definitely have a durability and a sustainability that is based on of those micro failures that I've shared with you, that what it does is it builds a toughness and a resilience. And so, embracing that, failure as growth. So instead of seeing it as, I failed, I see that as an opportunity for understanding, education, and ultimately growth as a human. Right, number 5, and the final one for today, surround yourself with a supportive team. I'm grateful because I've got a great wife. I've got great kids. I work with a couple of my kids. Awesome support network. I've got great business partners. In Smith & Sons, I've got a great business partner in our building company, and really, and I've got great support in my coaching fraternity. I've got a couple of really great mentors that I can reach out to, and so I've really established myself, or I've surrounded myself with, or been blessed enough to have people around me that put up with me, essentially, that I can reach out to for help. And I couldn't do it without them. And you need to understand that. And so, if you think that pulling back and isolating yourself is a way to, really achieve something in your life, unfortunately, you're mistaken. Okay? We all need to put ourselves in that vulnerable position and make sure that we, have the network that's going to really help us out. So we want to engage mentors, peers, and advisors who encourage us to grow and challenge us constructively, and that reinforces our confidence. So now we move from a position of being controlled by fear to a position where we are now very confident in how we operate. So, on that note, I'm going to wrap up with some quotes, as part of my conclusion to this episode and, of course, this month. And I really would love it if you'd give me some feedback, now that you're just about to, conclude the final episode for November, how it's helped you position your thinking, how it's helped you look at what's happened this year and start some forecasting and whatnot. And the reason is, I just think that we need to get a foundation to go, right, I'm not the only one that's ever gone through this shit, okay? And you need to know that straight away. And that when you get the context, that actually removes some of the emotion and will help you think practically. So here's a couple of quotes that I find that really help me get an understanding that things don't have to be like this forever. I can change, and therefore my surroundings can change as well. Okay, tough times don't last, tough people do. There's a book by Robert Schuller, and that is actually the title of the book. But that concept about, tough times don't last, that, in other words, what it means is when you go into a position that's tough, if you see that through, what it will do is it'll actually add to your capabilities and strength as a human. There's a Persian proverb that says, this too shall pass. And what it reflects on is the temporary nature of human nature, that neither the negative nor the positive moments in life ever indefinitely last. So both good and bad. Make the most of things that are enjoyable in your life because they don't last. But don't put too much importance on those things that are a little bit shitty in your life, because this too shall pass. Be encouraged. Okay, a setback is a setup for a comeback. Willie Jolie, also that was the title of a book that he wrote. And, that really encourages when you find yourself in a fairly negative position, you can go, okay, this setback is going to be a set up for a comeback. And I would encourage you to start crafting your own comeback right now. Success consists of going from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm, okay? And that was Sir Winston Churchill. I'd encourage you to watch the movie The Darkest Hour. I often reflect on that because it helps me. Susan Jeffers wrote a book called Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. And I think that's part of what we spoke about, of having fear and the controlling influence that it has. Remove it. You know it's there, but you're going to have the courage to act despite the fear. Franklin D. Roosevelt, courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the assessment that something else is more important than fear. And I think he was a 32nd US president, and that's very important. So this quote should inspire resilience and courage. It should reinforce your journey from fear to confident and courageous leadership. These principles and strategies can transform you from a fearful leader into a confident, emotionally stable one, leading to sustainable success and a thriving business. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I'd love you to drop me some comments. Shoot me an email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com. Visit the website if you want to catch up for 30 minutes and just chat about some strategy for next year. I'd love to do that. Maybe we can talk about, working together in an official capacity. Get across to Business for Builders VIP. Answer the 3 questions. I'll let you in. There's going to be some good communication and some questions and answers in there for you. Be sure to like and subscribe if I didn't already say that. Go and build a kick-ass business. Start planning and making it better and building a kick-ass business, because you will love it when you get there. I'll see you next time. Cheers.